As soon as I saw this Merkur pop up on Aliexpress, I knew that I liked it. I knew that I really liked it, and I knew that I wanted to own it. But what I didn't expect was when it arrived on my doorstep, for me to love it as much as I do. I can tell you right now, even before I go into the first impressions, even before I own this longer term, that I think it is going to be one of the best watches that I've ever purchased from Aliexpress. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I'm talking about watches. And today, I'm talking about this watch that they are calling the Skin Diver. This is a watch that when I saw it, I thought, wow, that is so cool. And it looked really good. And a few people have been talking about it, and as soon as I was able an opportunity to buy it, I bought it. But I didn't expect it to be quite as good as it is. As I just mentioned, this is probably going to be one of the best watches I've ever bought off Aliexpress. Definitely in my top 5. Now, there's a few places you can buy it. As I mentioned, you can buy this one off AliExpress. There are a number of stores that are selling it, or there is the Merkur website as well that is selling it. Now, recently they reached out to me and they said, hey, we sell these watches as well. Would you like a discount code to give to your viewers? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave a link to their website down below, as well as a discount code for this watch, or for any of the watches that are on their website. So if you want to use that one, do that. If you can find it cheaper on AliExpress, well, buy it from there as well. But firstly, in a first impression style video, I want to show you this watch. I want to show you why I think it is so good, and why for under 200 Australian dollars, because that's the most I've seen it advertised for, I think it may be worthwhile picking up if you like this style of watch. So, first impressions of the Merkur Skin Diver. So this Merkur Skin Diver, there is 4 things that really stood out to me straight away. And that was on top of the packaging that it comes in. Really great travel case. Nice and sort of secure for the watch, plus some stuff in here talking about different watches, as well as a bit of a cleaning cloth there. But when I actually looked at the watch, there were 4 things that stood out to me. And number 1 is the quality. The quality of this watch is outstanding. It actually shocks me how nice this is. This is a watch that costs less than 200 Australian dollars, depending on where you buy it and sale periods, etc. But it feels like a watch that should be $500. Seriously, the case, the crystal, the look of the dial there, the overall sort of feel of the watch, just having it in hand, super high quality. It really has surprised me. Number 2, going along with that quality, is the strap. I kind of expected this to be a terrible strap, and it's turned out to be a really, really nice quality strap. We got sort of quick release spring bars there, reinforced holes. It's really thick and soft, really nice hardware, really nicely done. Under there it says Merkur watch group. Really cool. The only disappointing point about it is that this is an all brushed watch and this is all polished, so it doesn't quite match, but the quality of the strap, outstanding. Number 3 is the hands. How cool are those hands? Firstly, that minute hand is one of my favorite minute hands. That sort of expanding sort of sword hand I quite like. And that arrow, very, very cool. Really nice little length to them as well. High polish, looks really cool. Hits that outer track. Nice little second hand. And they're a real feature that really stood out to me in the pictures, but they certainly stand out to me in real life looking at the watch as well. And the 4th thing that stood out to me starts off as a bit of a positive, but then shifts to a little bit of a negative, unfortunately. And that has to do with the crown here up at the 10 o'clock. This crown is a screw-down crown, and it controls the internal rotating bezel, which is really cool. And when you unscrew that and start moving that bezel, it has a lovely, crisp feel to it. Absolutely incredible. I also like the look of the crown being up there. It just gives the watch another sort of aspect to it, another sort of interest factor. But there's a problem, and there's the reason why I'm not doing it for you right now, because it's slightly irritating. When I do the full review, I will show you it. You unscrew that, you move it around, perfect. But as you push it back in and screw it back in again, every time it then moves that internal bezel again. So you unscrew it, move it to where you want it to be, set it, push it down, and then it starts moving it again as you try to screw it back in again. I wish they'd just gone non-screw down so you could set it and just push it back in. It's a little bit disappointing. To get that line back up again with the 12 o'clock took me about 6 or 7 goes of sort of setting it a bit further over here to about 5 minutes past, and then as I screw it back down, it sort of moves it back up to the 12. So that was a little bit annoying and a little bit disappointing. But realistically, I'm not actually going to use that feature very often. So I think it's going to be perfectly fine. And there's a couple other funny things about it. As you look, there's a nice sort of matte black dial, Merkur up there. And then it says anti-choc, C-H-O-C. Now I looked that up, and I think other watches have that as well, a bit more sort of vintage watches, and they're talking about anti-shock, not choc. But then when you look under that, it says manual. It's the wrong manual spelling though, so it's spelt incorrectly. It's Manuel versus Manual, but it's so small that you don't actually notice it. It's printed on really nicely, however. The whole case there is all brushed. It looks really cool. Signed crowns, both of them there. As I showed you before, we got the crown there from the Merkur. It's just overall a really nice looking watch. And when I've got it on wrist, there's two things that stand out to me. Firstly, it fits to wrist beautifully. I think this is about a 38 millimeter. Obviously, I'll talk about dimensions in the full review, so it really sits down. Because it's a manual wind only movement, it's actually quite thin as well, even though it has that sort of box crystal on there, so it sits down on wrist quite well. But as you'll see, I'm actually on the last hole here, and I've got a 6 3/4, around about 17 centimeter wrist. So if you've got a smaller wrist than me, that you're going to have to exchange this strap, which is a shame because it's a good strap. But the problem I have with it is that because I'm on that last hole, I've got a big sort of tail sticking up there. So I'm going to have to probably actually trim that or pull it down or just live with that and see if it sort of squishes down. It is really comfortable, however, and it is really nice to have this one on wrist. And guys, if you enjoyed this first impressions, well, stay tuned for the full review in about 4 to 6 weeks. And in the meantime, maybe check out these two videos next.